Right, let's see if I can find my list of questions everyone's kicked in. Once a couple more people come, we'll start with Q&A, give it a couple of minutes. Hello, Lima Tango. First one in. A little bit longer. Ooh, hello, Myopic Werewolf. Thank you for joining us. So I'll start now, as it's been a couple of minutes past the hour. So hello everyone, my name is Stuart, I'm from Meeple Soup Reviews, and this is just a thing I'm going to start doing probably once a month, just do a live hour talking about how the last month's gone and things that are planning for the next few months. To start this one off, I was going to do a Q&A. I'm just going through the process of trying to find where my Q&A questions from my post have gone. But I will start off with a couple of generic ones. If you've got any questions that you do want to ask during this, it's perfectly fine. But I'll start off with introducing myself a little bit more. So I live in the UK, live in the southwest in Somerset. I've been into board gaming, modern board gaming I should say, for about 4 years now. I started up when I went back to college and uni to learn to become a teacher. And once I went into college, that was the thing that nearly everyone was doing, was playing a lot of board games. My first board game, I'd have to go quite a way back to my childhood, because we used to play quite a lot of board games as a family. The usual ones that everyone of at least my generation were always playing: Cluedo, Monopoly, we had Go for Broke, we had Grape Escape, which was a really fun game. They've brought it back now, and they've done a deal with Play-Doh, and sadly I don't think it's as good. Basically, with Grape Escape, you had this, you'd have these molds, and you'd make a Play-Doh grape as your character. You had different colours of Play-Doh, hence why it's the new one's got the connection with the Play-Doh, the company. And you go around the board, so it's a roll and move game, but there'll be certain points on the board where there's this factory, this plastic machine with a crank handle. And I think you had one space where there was a boot that would smash you. There was one place that had two scissors that would cut you. There was one place that had a roller that would crinkle you. I can't remember what the other space was, but it was this whole contraption in the middle of the board that you had to build, similar to like Mousetrap. But the newer version is just a platform with a little bit hanging off with your with your piece of equipment. So if it's got scissors, there's scissors on an arm. So you haven't got like the crank handle, which was the fun part of it, because whenever you got onto one of those spaces, there could be multiple people in the same space, and you get them all at the same time with the crank of the handle. Whereas now you've got to go around and individually, I'm going to cut this person, I'm going to roll this person out, I'm going to do this. We used to play quite a lot of games as kids. We went camping a lot, so a lot of the time we would, me, my brother and sister, still to this day, always carry 2 decks of playing cards, just cheap, 99p, $1 playing cards. And we've learned so many games over the years that we can play in groups, and we used to do that. When I hit 15, 16, got heavily into video games, and I kind of steered away from board games for quite a long time, until we're looking at my early 20s, mid-20s, coming back into gaming. And the first game to do it was Lords of Waterdeep. So up to this point, I'd only played a couple of betting games, card games, and roll and writes. So I hadn't actually played a meeple placement or a game with like resources in it. Your heroes that you're sending out on all your quests and missions. So So that's a little bit about how this whole Lords definitely is an awesome gateway. I agree with that, Lima Tango. It's one of those weird things, because I find that for non-gamers, D&D tends to be the ultimate, weirdly, used to be the ultimate turn-off for a lot of people. The second they heard Dungeons and Dragons, it'd be like, oh, we're doing that sort of board gaming. But now that it's become very popular again, Stranger Things, the new D&D movie, it's become more in line with the modern realms, and it's obviously been in the news a lot with the one D&D and stuff like that. And to be honest, just in general, role-playing games have just soared recently. There's a lot of people doing live shows of different systems. So there's been live shows of Pathfinder, with Kids on Bikes or Kids on Brooms, which is another nice system. People have started back up on Cthulhu quite a lot with the Cthulhu mythos. So but D&D I always found was this, I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy it. But it's such a nice, easy, simple game, and once you get past the D&D aesthetic, if you're not into that, it plays so smooth. Turns are nice and quick. It's, I'm going here, I'm taking this. I'm going here, I'm taking this. The only thing I find is the difficult rule to remember when you're starting out is the Waterdeep Harbour one. Making sure that you actually take your meeples out of Waterdeep and place them somewhere else. Because you go to Waterdeep to play intrigue cards, and these usually are most of them are about getting any extra resources or taking resources from other players, or they take that mechanic off that game, which is setting a mandatory quest for somebody else. So then when I went to uni, after doing a year at college, I did a access to education course. Didn't do college did college the first time round. I went on a media studies course, and I dropped out after the first year just because there was a lot going on with family and stuff. This was my second time round trying it out. And then I did 3 years at uni. While I was at uni, I ran the Board Game Society. So I did that for, I say 3 years, but 2 of them were COVID, which was very difficult. It took me a long time to get used to online gaming and using things like Board Game Arena and Tabletop Simulator. It's taken a while to feel the same feeling that it does compared to playing in person. It's the same with video games as well. I'm saddened by the fact that there's not a lot of like couch co-op games anymore. Because that was the one thing I would love to do, is invite friends around, or sit on the sofa, sharing a bag of chips, crisps, whatever you want to call them, and just going with it. So yeah, what other questions did we have? We had a couple of top 3 questions, which are always a good fun one. But first of all, I still can't get into where it actually has. Because there was one that came through, and I'm trying to find out who sent it. But there's one person who was asking what constitutes a bunch of bananas. I believe because obviously, if you haven't already heard, it's April the 1st, so I'm guessing this was a nice little joke. Sadly though, I do know the answer to this one. So, a bunch of bananas is actually 200. So a bunch is what they call a whole bush of bananas. Going off topic for a little bit, but I just wanted to highlight this one. So yeah, about 200 bananas is on a bush. Bananas are technically more a herb than a fruit. They're more closely related to ginger than they are any fruit. And then when they take them off the stem part, that's called a hand. That can have 10 to 20 on it, and that gets split up to 4s and 6s like you see in the shops. So if that person gets round to watching this, there is your answer. So top 3s. Top 3s, we've got top 3 artists. So top 3 artists in board games. I've got about 5 at the moment. So I've just honourable mentions would be Beth Sobel. I've just gone into some of her games. At the moment, I'm doing a review for Tussie Mussy, which is a little micro card game by Buttonshy. I actually think I've got it down here. Yeah, got that and the expansion as well. Really good game. It's a split and share game. So you'll draw 2 cards, and the idea is that you'll give the offer to the opponent of 1 face up and 1 face down, and you create an arrangement using so many cards, and they score in different ways. So it's that sort of, like most I Split You Choose games, it is making sure that you try and coax the other person into taking what you want them to take and not the other one. But it's a really good game, works really quick, kids have enjoyed it as well, so that's been a family pleaser. The expansion is a must, I would say, if you're playing any more than 2 players, because it's only an 18 card deck. Once you finish the game, you've gone through the whole deck. So by the 2nd or 3rd round of a game, you can kind of guess what everyone's cards are. You can have an educated guess of what the card face down is. But yeah, I'd definitely say get the expansions on top of that. So Beth Sobel's one. Then it's going to have to be Manny Tremblay for my top one. Manny Tremblay does Dice Throne. I think he's done a few other ones. Let's have a quick check. I know he's done a few other ones. Manny Tremblay. Always good to have your laptop nearby. So yeah, Dice Throne. He's done quite a few projects other than that, but I know him more from Dice Throne than anything else. Oh no, it's just Dice Throne. Oh, it's just because it's so... Looked on BGG and it said 25 projects. I didn't know it was 25 individual projects of Dice Throne. Oh, actually, I'm sure he did the art for Wonderland's War. Bodgermania. I'm sure he did Wonderland's War. Oh, there's Heap, the 2012 game as well. Yeah. So, yeah, Wonderland's War is another one of his as well. That'll be that. Ryan Lockhart. I've only got one of his games, which is, I hope I pronounced the surname right. It's one of those ones where I think a lot of people pronounce it in different ways. I've got Sleeping Gods, but he's the one that makes the Near and Far, Over and Under, or something like that. Yeah, it makes all those sort of games, but it's such a small company making such lovely games, and he seems to have such a nice artistic style, and I've enjoyed the storytelling of Sleeping Gods at the moment. It's really up there with a lot of the other games. I do quite like narrative-driven games. And then after that, it will have to be Cole Worley, which is Leader Games, I believe. No, not Cole Worley. I'm having a mind meld. A quick double check. It's always good when you're not prepared for these things. But yeah, so the Root games are one. Anything like that from Leader Games are a must for me. I know Root's got kind of like a mixed review a lot of the times. I think it's because it looks so cute that people don't understand it's actually a war game. I think a lot of because the factions are so dramatically different, you've got to set the game, if you're playing with a lot of players, you've got to set the game up right that there is a chance for everyone to win. And I think when you've got a few very militant groups, and you've got a lot of the groups that are sort of revolutionists and stuff like that, I think it does get a bad rap with some gamers, but to be honest, yeah, I think if it's well taught, it makes for a very good game. Just trying to find all of the things. I'm so used to doing it on my phone, so when I'm looking on the online, I always forget where things are. Kyle Ferrin. Cole World's a designer, Kyle Ferrin is the artist. See, I mixed those two up. Apologies. So they'd be my three artists. Next question I've got is, what was the one game that you bought and has let you down? I'm quite picky with what games I do pick up, but the early days of Kickstarter, I've actually got it here in my little box. This was a project that started up on Kickstarter, and it had quite a lot of promise. Little battle system, 2 players, and it worked on this system of each character. I'll try and show it off. Each character is strong and weak against a certain type of other character. So you put them up face down, blinded, and you turn them over, and you take whatever the winning is, and you carry on until you've wiped out another player's deck, essentially. It was really good on the Kickstarter. I liked the very cartoony artwork. Getting into the realms of very early anime style, so it's not too like modern anime style, which I'm one of those ones who quite likes all the older style looking anime. But they made the core set, and then it just, after they sent out all the Kickstarters, it just fell out the wayside. And there was talk of there being like booster pack or add-ons and stuff like that. And now I've just got a game set here that has been played quite a lot and has now lost its vibe completely. Other than that, I've had a few games that I've bought because I was part of the board gaming society. Yido. Loved the early look of it, but the setup and payoff was too long. Oh, Yido. That one sounds familiar. Let's have a look quickly. Right. I'm guessing we're talking about... Oh, I'm hoping my screen's going to focus. No, don't do that. Might be easier if I actually turn the screen down. Yido. That box art. So I'm guessing it's a dynasty period sort of thing. That was Lee Matanga who said that was one of his. We've got a 7.4 and weights on the heavier side. Right. Yeah, I do have a problem samurai setting. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, that's the one thing I do kind of try and steer away from, is anything that's got a very heavy, large setup time. I think my heaviest one setup time-wise for me is The Great Wall, especially trying to teach it, because there is so much going on. It makes sense if you can put yourself in the world and stuff. But yeah, where was I going? The other one, as I said, because I was doing a lot with uni and doing the board game society, we kind of slowly started merging with other societies a little bit. So there was a werewolf society, so a lot of the games started becoming alternatives to werewolf. We suddenly lumped in with a lot of the people from the anime society, so they were starting to have other games we bought. I've got the Steven's Universe game, which is actually pretty enjoyable to play. And then, but the one I got while I was there's a lot of people who were watching a YouTube series by a person called Jerry Grassetti. And they made a game based on the TV series. And it was very, how do you put it? It was roll and move. You had to try and collect tokens off the board. After a certain amount of time, there was this voting bit where you could vote players off. It was a party game, so you used to have like quite a lot of players for it, or you ended up with people having more than one character. And you would vote off people to be put into a match to death. And that was stimulated by, here's a card, you have to beat this number on a dice roll. The one who beat it more stayed in, the one who didn't beat it went out. And because of that, it was very luck driven. And a lot of people, when they got round to playing it, were so excited to play it and so excited to be the character they loved from the show, that once they started playing, they got really disappointed. They said it wasn't even Cluedo, which definitely made us upset. I've still got it because it's a deluxe edition. You played the werewolf game. Do you know which version of werewolf? Because there's quite a few. You've got like Ultimate, you've got One Night, you've got Miller's Hollow as well. I would have to run upstairs to get mine, but I've got the Ultimate Werewolf Collector's Edition, big box. Best bit about that, you can buy them separately, but I think you can buy them separately. But the best bit about that is they've got snap straps that say you're dead. So when you're playing like a 20-player game, you can just go, whoosh. You're not allowed to play anymore. The One Night one, yes, the One Night one, the phone app. One Night is really, really good. It's a nice little entry point into like social deduction. If you can get the big group together, you definitely go Ultimate Werewolf, which is Bezier Games. If you can't get you can get a medium-ish sized group. I would say steer from Werewolf and go to Salem. So Salem is a little bit nicer. It works on card driven. So you have a deck of cards, and there are cards that are accusation. Try saying it's an intro game when trying to explain to people who've had a few to drink. It is an introductory game, yeah. One Night is definitely. Yeah, no. It's one of those games where I think, especially with like social deduction, you want to start mildly on the steamed side. Once you're full blotto, social deduction becomes quite a difficult game to play. But no. So Salem, as I was saying, you get a deck of cards, and there's cards with crosses on. I think accusation, witness, and something else. And you've got to build 7 of these up on one player. And once they do, they have to turn over these trial cards which are in front of them. Depending on how many players you've got playing, they could have 3, 4, 5. And that allows them to stay in the game a bit longer. And instead of it being just one side, good versus bad, and the bad side is just trying to kill everyone off, it has this nice kind of seeping infection element. So the trial cards you have in front of you, well, most of them will say you're innocent, but there'll be 2, maybe 3 that say witch on them. Now, when you get the witch card, you know you're a witch. But these cards get put in front of you, and they get shuffled up, put in front of you. And at points in the game, you'll be turning them over, and at points in the game, you'll be passing them on to the player to your left or right. If you pass the card, and the next person beside you becomes a witch, and it keeps on going, once you get to the night phase, if everyone wakes up, the witches have won. So it's a little bit more interesting because people end up changing sides a little bit more than they do in any other social deduction games. But yeah, no, social deduction is definitely one I really enjoy. There's the unspoken game. I've been told a few times that we're not allowed to speak about it on a lot of social media bits. the secret of a past person who may have been in power of a country when it was taken to war. Hopefully you get that. It's probably fine if you did type it, if you did get it, just to let everyone else know. But it's one of those games where you say it and sometimes it can cut your live feed straight off. But yeah, there's a lot of social deduction games out there. Werewolf's good, but there are ones out there that are equally as good. What else we got here? Who is on your publisher no-go list? Okay, so publisher no-go list. So this is basically where, I'm guessing from the way this question's worded, it's someone who you wouldn't purchase something from without a lot of consideration. So for me, I have two that sit in the same place for the same reason. Now, please don't hate me, because I know both of them do make really good games. But it's the method of how their games get good that is the problem with it. So, bite the bullet. First one is Simon, and second one is Chip Theory. So both of these tend to be the companies that have the more expensive games. I mean, Chip Theory is understandable because of all the weighted poker chips. Simon, crude miniatures or not, makes sense because they do a lot of miniatures in their games, and they are quite, they are decent miniatures, and a lot of the games are really decent, but both of them tend to rely heavily on the FOMO. It is, you can get the base game, but this is going to be the only time you're going to be able to get any of the expansions. So buy it all now. Buy it all now. And I've got a couple of Simon games. I've played a few. I've played Zombicide, and I've got what's it called? I haven't played it for a while, so the name's gone right out my be near the bottom of my list because it's a weird named game. Anyway, so yeah, I like the look of Burn Cycle from Chip Theory Games. I really like the look of Undertow. Undertow's the most recent one. Too Many Bones. The fact that it's got custom dice is one thing I really like the idea of. But it's just such a big buy-in. Yeah. So if I had more money than sense, I would definitely be into it. Not having a go at anyone who does like Simon. But that's where my usual things lie. For me, quickly before I carry on, hello Logical Monkey Podcast and me, Flamingo. Thank you for joining. A quick wave. Hey. So for those who just joined, we're just doing a Q&A. We've just been talking about the no-go companies, so publishers and stuff you wouldn't instantly go and buy a game from. And I said it was Simon and Chip Theory. Not because they make bad games, they make really good games. Is this the expense of it, and especially with Simon, the fact that they rely on FOMO to make you spend more money. On the flip side, my go-to companies, I've already mentioned, obviously, my like for Leader Games. I haven't got everything of theirs, but everything that has been out since I've started board game collecting, I've got near enough all of it. The only thing I haven't got is Ahoy, and I haven't got the first game they made. But I started from like Root onwards and got all the Roots and Fort and stuff. Next, the other company is Awakened Realms. I don't think I know many other companies that are able to make such stunning models, such interesting and varied games, and it still be relatively affordable, even to go all in. So Awakened Realms, for those who may have heard the name but don't know what games and stuff, so Awakened Realms is Nemesis, the very alien-esque alien games. Rio Grande, Meeple Mingo says. Great games, quality of components is poor. No, I can agree with that, with Rio Grande. It is a lot of their games you do see a lot of Etsy upgrades around them. But yeah, they do make great games. De Veer is another one. They make stunning looking games, but I think sometimes the mechanics aren't there to make it stand out a bit more. But it's that fine line where you get to the point where if you're making a game more lightweight, you know you're going to attract a different crowd. You're going to attract that family crowd or that early gamer crowd. And I don't think a lot of them worry as much on components. Yeah, they are doing great games. It's just sometimes some of their older stuff has got mechanical issues here and there. But no, De Veer are definitely getting a lot better products under their belts, definitely. But Awakened Realms is definitely one. Any good Star Trek themed board games? Star Trek. If you can find them, I don't know if you've ever played Flux. Flux is a good game, full stop. But if you can get a Star Trek themed Flux, I know some of them have gone into their vault. Actually, I'll have a quick check while I'm here. Have I got a tablet in front of me? Yeah, you can still get Zatu Games is always my go-to online. Star Trek Flux. You've got Voyager as well. Deep Space Nine. So Flux is a really good game. It's very chaotic game. So, but when you get the themed decks, they have a lot of nods to the series. So I'd always say get a deck of Flux no matter what. But if you're after a theme, they will do enough to hit like known tropes and stuff. Other than that, Star Trek is something I really love watching. I haven't for a long time recently because I've had to cut back on a lot of the on-demand TV sort of stuff just because of how finances are. But I was getting very heavy into Discovery, which has a little bit more of a darker vibe compared to a lot of the other ones. But board game wise, there's a I'm sure there's a card game. Ascendancy. Star Trek Ascendancy. Again, it's one I haven't played, but I hear a lot of good things about and see. So it works on, I think it's an actual system, like Ascendancy system. If anyone else who's here is a Trekkie fan, or anyone who watches after this, do put a comment down below if you do know of any other Star Trek orientated games. I know ages ago, I'm probably going back quite a way, there was a Star Trek Next Generation game, which was a video board game. That was Milton Bradley before they became part of Hasbro. I think it was 94, 95. It's going to be one of those ones you'd have to find online, but I had played that when I was a kid. That one seemed very good, but because obviously it's a 1994 game, mechanics might be a bit dated and stuff. Star Trek Expeditions. You've got 9 versions, including the Star Trek sci-fi one. Oh, Flux! Is that just... Sorry, Lima Tango, is that just of Flux? Or different versions of Star Trek in sci-fi games? Hello, Octospelling. Yeah, so yeah, it's one I haven't got into is the Star Trek sort of games. I think it's one of those things where I love the TV series, but you are a Flux collector. I thought you were. I thought you were talking about Fluxes. What's your favourite out of the Fluxes? What do you think works thematically the best? Because I've got 5.0 and Remix, and I think Remix is a really good one. That's one of the more modern ones. I want to get the Alice in Wonderland one, because I'm a massive Alice in Wonderland nut. And I want to get I think it's called Across America or something, the newest one, which is coming out, where it's all locations in America. But yeah, no, Flux, hands down, one of the better warm-up games. Looney Tunes and Cthulhu. Yeah, I do like a bit of Cthulhu. Cthulhu is a definite theme I do like. Very heavy into the Arkham Horror living card game. I quite like my Elder Signs as well, even though it's all luck-driven on dice. Definitely a Cthulhu fan. So more Cthulhu than I am Star Trek, I would admit. But yeah, well done. Thanks for the question. That's a really good one. What else? If anyone else has got any questions, we're just doing a Q&A of just random questions. Mansions of Madness is my go-to for a long game, says Lima Tango. Now, that's the one I haven't played yet. Purely because I'm torn between getting the earlier edition, where it's not app ran. I'm okay with app run games. I have quite a few that are app driven. I just think with it being Cthulhu, I'd like the idea of kind of being the overlord, taking care of the game. But I've been told that the app for it is amazing. Yeah, the app run. I've been told the app is amazing and it takes a lot of the legwork out. So yeah, no, I would definitely more Cthulhu than Star Trek. But yeah, if anyone else has any other questions they'd like to ask, doing a quick Q&A, we're probably going to go on for another 15 minutes to bring up the hour. We've already had a talk about how I got into gaming, which is mostly through college and uni and running societies based on board gaming. We've talked about favourite artists for games. We had a joke question about what a bunch of bananas. How many bananas are in a bunch? I suppose one of the last questions I've got is, what's the most recent Kickstarter you backed? Now, I've had to start pulling back on Kickstarter a lot recently because of how well the UK is dealing with its finances as a country and just screwing over everybody, making everything really expensive. I know there is the same issue in a lot of places with how the pandemic's affected everything and just the general fuel and oil crisis. But yeah, I've had to start bringing myself away from Kickstarter a little bit. But there are a few games that I still have, no matter what, I've gone and backed. So I'll just get my Kickstarter up. I'm also very deep into Back a Kit now. They started doing the crowdfunding as well, and GameFound as well. So I do use all three of them. I suppose GameFound and Kickstarter are the more common ones that I do use. My most recent, let's go into my profile. My most recent is I've got Steve Jackson's Choose Cthulhu, back onto the Cthulhu theme. Crown of Ash is another one. Went to ZatuCon, which was held in London, and they had a copy of it sat there on one of the tables. I never got to play it, but it looked so rich and colourful because it's like deep purples, deep blues, reds and greens. So it's one that I've been watching. I haven't gone all in on it. I've just basically gone so I can get Pledge Manager. The one thing I have with Kickstarter and crowdfunding in general, Lee Matango has just asked, do you think they're still worth it? There's a lot of companies now that are just going straight to Kickstarter. They are already established companies. They already have enough money to run to get the game out. But I think because of, again, pandemic and everything else, and the shipping crisis as well, and all the things, I think a lot of companies now are trying to find an easier way to navigate the uncertainty of how well their game's going to do. So there's a lot of companies where they just put it on Kickstarter instead of actually doing a proper release. Unmatched, recent campaign for their campaign-driven version of it. That going straight to retail, from what I've been told, but they're running a Kickstarter anyway just to get the money together. Sadly, the Kickstarter is only US and Canada, but I think it's just if you can get it crowdfunded, it means that you can get all that localization costs. You can start looking at your distribution and all the costs that we as consumers don't think about. So from that point of view, I tend to steer away from those sort of things and companies. But I do use it a lot for indie or lesser known developers, and people who are companies that are from other countries, because obviously they can ship it with Kickstarter and stuff, because they've made the money to be able to ship it out, and they've made the money to be able to localize it into different languages. But in a general sense, a lot of them wouldn't be able to do that normally. Wouldn't be able to have the distribution across Europe, America, the Middle East, Africa, Asia, you know. So I think crowdfunding as a whole still has its place, board gaming wise, but I think a lot of people are a lot of established companies are leaning too heavy on it. But I suppose in the same breath, if you've got a game concept and you're not sure if it's going to sell or not, it makes sense to test the waters, trial it. Will people want this? Instead of it being, it's going on shelves next week. You know? Depends on how many people do the review watching as well. Hello, Dyson Wine 51. Thank you for joining us. So yeah, we're just doing a quick Q&A sort of session. I'm going to be trying to do these once a month. We're going to probably go for another 8 minutes. So if you do have any sort of questions around gaming or board games and stuff, I've only got the one question that's left on my screen left to do, but I should be able to squeeze a couple more in before I close up. One of the things somebody has asked here is, how often do you buy an expansion before you've played the base game? Now this does heavily sort of sink in with the whole crowdfunding thing again, that whole FOMO element that I talked about a bit earlier. It is a lot about doing your research. Lee Matanga's joined in on this one as well and said watching reviews and playthroughs before buying a board game. Yeah, it's a financial commitment these days, as he said. Yeah, definitely. So I do tend to keep my ear quite close to the ground with a lot of review places. My go-tos, I still go to quite a few different a few different YouTube sites now. So, Shut Up, Sit Down's one of my favourites. Just for the comedic value of how they do their reviews and stuff, and I like the attitudes they all have. For more kind of constant content, I do Dice Tower. I do tend to go towards Tantrum House as well. That tends to be quite a good YouTube channel. Who else? I used to be very heavy on Dicebreaker, which is another more UK orientated. I won't lie, Johnny Chiodini brought me into Dicebreaker more than anything else because I love him as a person. And since he's left, they still do really good stuff. Definitely worth checking out. But I was definitely following that channel for Johnny. But they still do really good reviews and really good, really good videos in general. But yeah, so again, going back to my go-to companies like Awakened Realms and stuff, if I like the concept of the game and I like everything that they're showing off, I will tend to I'll tend to go all in on a lot of stuff. I tend to leave the cosmetic things until I've got it, and then try and back or aftermarket them after the fact. But no, I think it's always best. At the end of the day, an expansion is meant to be what it is. It is to extend the gameplay. If you have a game where it relies on there being an expansion, I don't think it's wholly worth getting. If it's a case of this game doesn't play very well unless you have a expansion with it, that should ring some alarm bells on whether or not to purchase it, and you should then go into that deeper researching. Research-wise, I still use print media as well, so Tabletop magazine, which is a UK one. I still do print media as well, and I try my hardest not to pigeonhole myself into a genre of games. Because it's kind of nice to be able to flex a little bit. The only sort of genre I haven't delved into yet is kind of like the wargaming genre, dudes on a map sort of stuff. But I think game collection wise, I'd like to get a little bit of everything. So I'm very dubious when I have a game that is exactly the same as another one. Example would be, I've got Nemesis and I really like the Nemesis system. It works really, really well. So there's no point in me getting Colonial Marines or the Aliens game version. Let's have a quick look at comments quickly. Show Sit Down, Lee Matanga says, yeah, usually a good go-to. Dice Tower, it depends on who of the Dice Tower you watch more frequently. There are a lot of times when they do pan a game quite heavily and critically, and there is nothing wrong with the game. It is actually perfectly fine for being a lightweight, middleweight game. I think a lot of times they don't like Shut Up and Sit Down. They do this might be for you. I don't like it, but this might be for you. And they will recommend things still, even though they don't wholeheartedly think it's going to stay in their collection. Which is what I like about Shut Up and Sit Down. Do dabble in a bit of everything. If anything, while I've been at uni, I've learnt go and find 3 different reviews of the game. Try and find 3 different opinions, because don't just let one person just tell you, like a snake oil merchant. Use as much information out there as you can get. Okay, I'm going to squeeze out this last question because it actually is an interesting one. So, do you think the rise in 3D printing is a threat to board gaming, or is it good for home brewing and modelling? It's got the same problem as PDFs. Again, if you look on a lot of crowdfunding sites and stuff, a lot of companies, if they're small companies, they will do a PDF run of a game first, and then they'll do a full release if the PDF sells well. I think having the ability to having a different access route for people would be good. I mean, if I had a 3D printer right here with me, I don't. because they're still rather expensive, even the consumer-oriented ones. If I had a 3D printer with me right now, and I knew how to operate it, how to work it, how to deal with STL files, how to design things using a 3D printer, which I find now that a lot of schools are starting to run as part of their curriculum. Why not have the opportunity to turn around to some people and go, you can get the basic version where we'll put wooden or cardboard components in, but we'll give you access to the STL files so you can print it yourself. Because at the end of the day, that means the actual publisher only has to foot the bill for that for people who want it. Although in the same breath, there's the other side of that argument, which is 3D printing has taken off as a mass thing, so there are a lot of companies that now do 3D printing, so they need to be kept in business at the same time. Technology keeps striving on at a vast rate. I mean, even like AI stuff's becoming a concern in the art and medium of board gaming and other bits of cultures. I think there is space for consumer-led 3D printing with some companies, so that they can package a game a little bit cheaper, a little bit more affordable, not as weighty, which would help with shipping costs. I don't think we've got to the point yet where it's being, because it's still quite an expensive concept, 3D printing. I don't think it's got to the point yet where people are abusing it and making as many fake copies of games. I know I have been caught at least once with a fake game copy of Unstable Unicorns. One of my copies is a definite fake. But it was bought for me, so I didn't have a say in whether it was a proper copy or not. But I know it definitely is obviously fake. Colour schemes are way off. I don't think anyone's got to the point where they're undercutting the gaming industry, really. Not considered that option, actually. I like the idea of paying a little extra for 3D models whilst print out at home. Yeah, I mean, if you were just paying just for the STL files and you could just print off at home, I mean, you know the time it's going to take, you know the cost it's going to be, but that could be your choice. And in doing so, you'd probably save on the cost of shipping your product. I mean, there's a lot of companies now that are doing stuff like that, where it's like, we can ship this in just one box instead of having it all in expansion boxes. Oh, we have all these svelte components which we want to put into the game as is, but you can choose to take them out and just have basic components because it's going to make it lighter. This means we're going to be able to make more money and not charge you to make more of that money. So yeah, no, there's a place for 3D printing, same as there is a place for PDF files and stuff. I think the more entryways there are to getting into board gaming, the better, especially when you look on a worldwide scale. There are some countries where it's very hard to get games and hard to get the rights to publish in certain areas. So, yeah, No, I think there is definitely a place for it. I think it's a watch this space kind of question. See what happens in 10 years. It might go the complete opposite way and then become a problem, but I don't know. I don't think it will. Okay, we've gone a little bit over. We've gone a couple 5 minutes over, but I really like the questions I was getting. The 3D printing one is definitely, as I said, same with AI. It's all very new technology, and people are definitely experimenting with it and learning about it. And that's the other thing. Is it really bad if there's a load of people learning how to model in 3D and print in 3D? Because they can start making their own games in-house. They wouldn't have to ship it all out to China and then have it shipped all the way back if they're not in China. Not saying that is the go-to, because it's obviously, there's going to be how cost effective is it doing it in-house versus doing it at a factory. But yeah, no, very interesting. So thank you for everyone for joining me. I've been Stuart from Me for Super Reviews. Yeah, keep your friends close and your tables full, and enjoy the rest of your day. Try and squeeze a game in if you can, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.